Welcome back, everyone. We have some exciting news to get us started.
Yeah,
we
we do.
have
What?
another sponsor. It's been a while.
Finally.
We have been having to fill this dead space before the theme song with, games and little things like that. But we finally have another sponsor, and boy, oh boy, is it a big one. And am I excited to share it with you. Now, you may remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about books with Nicholas Hans Bell. He was our guest. It was a great
remember.
episode. Lots
I
of
was
fun.
there.
If you might recall something else, I have a rather large collection of Star Wars books. One might say too many Star Wars books. And
right.
because of this, DK, the book brand, has sent me a Star Wars book that they want me to promote. And it is the Star Wars, the Force Awakens, the Visual Dictionary.
Awesome!
Wow.
From DK. I don't know if DK stands for something. But,
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong books. Drift King. I should probably have done my due diligence. But this is a good book about the visual stuff that happens in The Force Awakens. Look, there's
Ooh, spoilers.
Dark
Wait, so
Killer
you're
Base.
telling me, Lucas, you're telling me we got this big sponsor and you did no due diligence and you have nothing specific to say about the book.
No,
We're
I
gonna
love
lose
the book.
this sponsor, dude.
I do have specific things to say about the book. I'm just opening to random pages to show you guys some exciting,
Ooh.
some of the exciting stuff. Like here's Poe Dameron. This was written by Pablo Hidalgo as well, who follows my dad on Instagram. There's a Chewbacca page. There's Captain Phasma.
Whoa, Captain Phasma of Centerfold
Yeah.
goes hard.
There's
So-
lots of fun. Let me find the best page, which was something that one of the main reasons I wanted this book back when it first came out, but couldn't afford it until now. And so luckily we got a free version. Here
Again,
it
this
Thank
is
you, DK.
exclusive to our podcast.
this,
the best page. So you'll know before you buy it.
Yep,
what the
you'll know
best
before you
is.
buy it. And as well, this is only in the Man Cave Movie Night version of the book.
Yeah.
So you'll go to...
This has
Go
just
to-
turned into the podcast where you listen to Lucas flip pages of a book.
Yeah, it's
That's
fun.
right.
But essentially what you're going to want to do is go to dk.com/mancavemovienight and use code dk.com/mancavemovienight. That's the code.
That's the
in
code?
website. Yeah, that's the code.
DK.com?
Pretty
You'll use.
long.
Yeah, that's
It's a long one, but it's great.
Got some special characters in there.
Remember, that's
this-
D as in drift and K as in Kong.
Kong.
Kong, yeah, exactly. This the fun
Are
thing
you
about
still
this book-
looking for the best page?
Man,
What's going
maybe
on?
they removed the page. I had thought, man, it's in here somewhere. Give me 1 second.
Oh,
But the
Wow.
reason I bring this up is because, we're talking about legacy sequels here today, and this
gotcha.
is almost 10 years old, which is crazy to think about. And episode
That makes
7
me feel
came out,
physically ill.
yeah, isn't that wild? Almost 10 years ago.
I don't like
episode
that
7 came
at all.
You know what I'm realizing? The page I'm thinking about is in the episode 8 book, which they
Oh,
graciously also sent
Wow,
me. So,
DK, this is a big
we got-
reveal.
we got
We
the
are
7
dipping
and
into
the
next
8.
week's sponsorship with them.
Yeah,
a little bit by
but
showing
I did
this.
want to give you this little sneak peek into why I was so interested in receiving these books, why I reached out. Okay, there we go.
we should do like an Amazon affiliate link and put stuff that we talk about through that.
Yeah, through
We
that.
should.
Okay, here we go. The Luke Skywalker page. For some reason, I thought this was in the episode 7 book.
Ah.
Guess it isn't, but that
Looks
was
the
my
same as
most
all the other
anticipated
pages.
part. That was my most anticipated part of episode
Worth
7. So
the
you
wait.
can
Wow.
you can imagine how excited I was when he had such a big role in episode 7. So big shout out to dk.com/mancavemovienight. Use code dk.com/mancavemovienight to get
DK.
85%
.com.
your purchase of Star Wars The Force Awakens, the Visual Dictionary. They really have a big surplus of these guys. They're trying to get rid of them. It's 85% off for The Force Awakens, 90% off for
Whoa.
The Last Jedi, and 95% off for The Rise of Skywalker.
And it's
So
free
if you-
if you buy a full pallet at the same
Yeah,
time.
if you buy a
Also
full
free
pallet.
if you steal it from a local store.
Yeah, they're pretty
true.
chill with you stealing. if they
They
still
like
have a
stealing.
stock. Yeah, they typically do have a back stock of these books because they did not sell quite as well as they had hoped. But regardless,
Well,
we thank you, DK.com, DK Books.
Last year, the CFO famously tweeted just the word "steal."
Ah, that's
since
what that.
then-
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Since then, people have been just stealing DK Books like
Yeah.
crazy.
They meant from independent, small, locally owned businesses.
Yeah, and
Do
he didn't.
not steal from corporations.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
he didn't. He didn't ever answer anything, but people would ask clarifying questions, and he would like tweets, like steal books, and he would like the tweet. And so,
So
what
it's-
more confirmation?
It's
do you
answering
need?
it by proxy, not directly,
Steal
but
books?
you know,
Exactly.
You get it.
Yeah,
Yeah, just a little.
it's a silent nod from across the room.
Very nice. Well,
Thank you, DK Books.
thank you,
DK.
DK Books. That's our sponsor, our real sponsor for the week. Now, let's get into the episode. And welcome back to another episode, another week of Man Cave Movie Night. My name, Lucas.
My name,
name.
Niall,
My Jared name, Cooksey.
is
Ah, interesting. I don't think we've ever said our last names before, except for Niall.
Thorley.
Coford. That's fun. You know, one could say that your children are legacy sequels of yourselves. Would you guys agree? Isn't that a good segue
I think,
into our
I
topic?
think
would agree.
children were the OG legacy sequels.
I agree.
What does that mean? A legacy sequel?
Now,
Not just a sequel?
I'm glad you asked. You may have clicked on this episode and been like, what the heck is legacy sequel? What the heck is even that? Well, the answer is kind of open to interpretation. I think the way that we're going to talk about it is
Break it down.
the...
No speech mistakes will go unnoticed.
I know,
in
I'm
this
sorry.
podcast,
Especially,
Lucas.
yeah, I know. That's
Especially
my
yours
mistake.
only.
I know. That's my bad. I apologize. Let me
Thanks.
bring that back. Try again
Let me
real
break
quick.
it
Audible
back
platform.
down.
Just remember that.
Okay. A little bit of visual elements
us more
if
books.
you choose to watch on Spotify or YouTube.com. I can bring in more books. I got more Star Wars books if you guys want them. You thought I just barely scratched the surface.
My man bringing picture books on a podcast.
Well, I could read them too if you guys want. We could do Man Cave Movie Night audiobook of me reading Star Wars: The Force Awakens, the visual dictionary.
And then with
think we should do an
alternative
episode of that.
text, visual descriptions of the pictures.
I think that would be pretty cool.
Tell
But
us what a legacy
sequel is a sequel to a typically beloved franchise or entry of just a movie or a TV show or something like that. That is, I would say, about 10 years or more years later after the original. So, great example is Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Yes, there were the prequels, but even with that, it was another 10 years after Revenge of the Sith until we got Force Awakens, and it was 35 years about after Return of the Jedi until we got Force Awakens. So something along those lines. And I would even say that Force Awakens really is the one that started this trend. Because in the last 10 years since Force Awakens was as successful as it was, we've gotten a huge influx of these kind of legacy sequels. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to Force Awakens, even though Star Wars was already akin to that kind of sequel type stuff anyway. Other franchises have tried to follow suit, and we'll talk about how successful or not they were, because I would say a lot of them have been stinky, but not all of them.
Stinky.
Not all of them.
Would the
So-
prequel series be long enough to be counted a legacy sequel? Legacy prequel, I suppose.
I would say so, but it's just a prequel, so that's the only thing. Like,
So
he
it
had
kind of
already
doesn't-
planned on
yeah.
making them. One thing I didn't realize as well about the original 3 Star Wars movies is that he called Star Wars, like the very first one, Episode 4 in the 80s. I didn't realize that he called him 4, 5, 6 before Episode
1,
6
2,
was
3.
even out.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
because my mom was like, no, he called him 4, 5, 6. I was like, there's no way that's true, and she was right. She totally proved me wrong. So yeah,
Lucas's
he
mom
was already-
always right.
She is, but he was always planning on making the prequels The sequels, he kind of had tentative ideas, but never really had committed. He was like,
Which is
I
exactly
think
what
that's-
we saw.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
100%. Lucas's
True
vision.
to his vision. Yeah.
Yep.
Here's a more, I would say, a more better definition of a sequel. A work that follows the continuity of the original work, but takes place further along the timeline, often focusing on new characters with the original ones still present in the plot. I think that's a perfect
Yep.
definition.
That's right on. And that's what disqualifies the prequels, because they are prequels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Therefore, the legacy
It'd be a
element
legacy
doesn't really mean
prequel.
anything.
Exactly.
Or does it make the original trilogy legacy prequels
It does not.
or
do that.
sequels?
No. This is sequels only. I don't know. There are probably some examples of prequels too, but for the most part, we're gonna be yapping about sequels here today. And Niall, you wanted to talk about why these are happening. This isn't a question,
Yeah.
but it's more of a response to why are they so frequent.
Well, it
I mean,
is
we
a
just
question.
had one come out last week, Ghostbuster 5.
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
think that it's an interesting thing to talk about just because I think there are a lot of, idiot loser commoners that don't know everything about film like the three of us that
True.
keep
Yeah.
just kind of getting hit over the face with these legacy sequels. And I can imagine there's probably some confusion of like, why does this keep happening? you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And so
Exactly. It's like,
I just
why
felt like
now?
it would be worth touching a little bit.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, these are different from Ghostbusters is a great example because we had a reboot Ghostbusters,
We did.
and it flopped. It was bad. I mean, who's to say why? I'll say bad writing and bad everything else. And then
Brave.
True.
thank you. And then they made the Ghostbusters Afterlife and Frozen Empire.
Frozen Empire.
That's what I'm talking about. I know everything about movies. And those ones are not reboots. They're a continuation of the story. And you know how we're so lucky that we get to bring back 80-year-old dudes to come in and play the parts that they played in the originals. They're probably not that old. I don't know.
They're pretty
They're
old. Dude,
pretty
Dan Aykroyd is
stinking old.
probably about 80. He's in like... He was in the original SNL cast 50 years ago.
Oh, gosh. And he
Yeah, 71. So I
is
guess.
still getting paychecks, baby.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think one of the things, or I guess one of the reasons why we're seeing so many right now, is this is the last chance. These actors
Yeah,
aren't
true.
going to be
That's a good
around
point.
much
Very good
longer,
point.
and so you might as well try to get some
Squeeze
milk-
them for what they're worth.
milk those resources while you can, because the
Yeah.
cow's going to be dead. You can't milk a dead
Sooner
cow.
or later. No, you cannot.
True,
well,
brother.
except for, in Star Wars, they
Oh,
do
except
milk
for Star
that
Wars,
dead
yeah.
cow. And even in Ghostbusters Afterlife, Harold Ramis died, and he's still in it as a ghost. So, spoilers for the end of Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Does he
About-
go, I'm
about
a
ghosts."
ghost in the movie and in life?
No, he doesn't have any lines, luckily.
Oh, it's a bummer.
That is a bummer.
No, it's good.
But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of them, because they're nostalgic still, and with each decade that goes by, we're seeing a resurgence of different decades, right? Like the '80s were really nostalgic, in the 2010s. I think the '90s are becoming more nostalgic now.
Definitely.
In the 2000s will be nostalgic, right? And so we're seeing all these properties be rebooted for basically the same audience. I can't, in my head, I don't believe that Ghostbusters Afterlife and whatever are for the new generation. As much as they'd like to say,
Yeah,
hey,
that's
Finn
what they
Wolfhard's
want.
in it. It's like, no, the
There's
only people
kids.
who really are excited about it, I think, are the people who loved the original.
Yeah.
And that came out in the 80s. So I think, just trying to remake things and milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah.
Get that audience to see the same movie, but worse again.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
honestly think it's unfortunate, but The Force Awakens is one of the highest grossing films of all time.
That's not unfortunate. That's good.
No. That's good. But what I'm saying is that made studios think, all right, let's do that over and over and over
Yes,
again.
that's exactly correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And I really do think, unfortunately, it's studios kind of thinking. I don't think there are a lot of people that I've had this conversation with that are like, well, it's because nobody has any new ideas. I think that's wrong. I think
No.
there are new
Yeah,
ideas
definitely
and
true.
studios aren't letting them through
Yeah.
because new ideas are a financial risk
Mm-hmm.
and proven IPs are guaranteed to break budget. And so I think
Well, you never
To
know,
break
though.
budget.
well, I think they
Well, they
used
were.
to.
I would say
Depends
they used
if
to
the
be.
budget
Yeah,
is
now the
We're-
people are
we're-
getting.
$400 million.
Yeah, now
exactly.
the budgets are going up and the opening weekends are going down. So I think that this trend is going to start going away unless the Legacy sequel is truly warranted. We're going to talk about some of those later on. But I don't think that there isn't a place for Legacy sequels, but I think there's a much smaller place for Legacy sequels
Yeah.
than studios have allotted. You know,
There's constantly.
there's a limited amount of film real estate across a year, and studios are putting about 45% of that into sequels and legacy sequels right now, and we need to cut that down to maybe 10.
Well,
Maybe.
exactly what you were saying. I just want to point out a parallel where you said one franchise does it successfully or one movie does it really successfully to a point where it breaks a lot of records and then everyone follows suit. We're seeing that right now, especially this last year with part 1s and part 2s.
Yeah,
The
Big time.
one of the highest grossing movies of all time, comparatively, is Endgame, and that was a part 2, right? Same with Infinity War. And so now last year we got to see such lovely first installments for movies like Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Dead Reckoning is the name of it, I guess. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. We had Spider-Man Across the
Across.
Spider-Verse. Yes, thank you. And then we had Fast X, our personal favorite movie
Of
of
course.
2023.
so good.
So good, dude.
And there's
Fast
probably
X Part
others,
2.
but-
Oh, I can't wait.
Fast X. What if it's
Fast
Fast X?
X 11.
Guys, what if it's Fast X and then Fast XX and then Fast Triple X and it combines
And
with
it
Triple
comes
X?
Oh, that would be so good.
Bring in Chronicles of Riddick while you're at it.
Two Vin Diesels in the same movie.
That would be
Oh,
honestly.
that would be
so
so
sick.
That would be the type of crap he would do, though. Oh,
Honestly,
man, that's crazy.
also, that would be the type of movie I would go and see opening night. Like, there's no chance I'm missing that theater
wasn't
experience.
Triple X also made by the director of the first Fast and Furious movie? I think it's
May
the
have
same
been.
guy.
I'm not totally sure.
And so
I don't know
it's-
if I saw this from one of you or just came across it naturally. Maybe Niall shared it on Facebook, but it was Vin Diesel with Justin Lin, who was the original director of Fast X, who quit like 2 weeks into production because he was like, I hate this so much. And it was basically Vin Diesel taking like a selfie video, and he's like, yo, Justin, this is our fourth fast movie together. How you feeling? And he clearly is like, does not want to be filmed right now.
Yeah.
He's just like kind of sitting there like, good, man. And he's like, so what do you think? Is this the best one ever? The best one yet? And he kind of looks to his left and right. He's like, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. He's like, you heard it here first, guys. This is the best one yet. And it's like he was just so clearly done.
Under duress.
Yeah, he's like,
And he called it
yeah,
He was right.
He was
by
right.
far.
Yep, he was right. It did end up being the best one yet.
It was a wonderful theater experience, all I can say.
It
Dude,
was
same.
one of the Fast and Furious movies of all time.
Dude,
It definitely
it was the 10th one.
But not just talking about sequels. We're talking about a specific brand of sequel, right? We're talking about
Of course.
legacy sequels.
Which we're definitely going to get legacy Fast and Furious sequels.
Oh yeah, give it a few years.
20 years
their
from now,
kids will have their own franchise.
Yeah,
Grandpa
Diesel, yeah.
Diesel's coming back
Oh man, I
It's
hope
gonna
he
be
does.
Brian
sweet.
too.
for one last ride, one last time.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait. So with that, let's start on a positive note. I'll start with my question, which is, we've had this huge flood of legacy sequels. So what's the best one you've seen or your favorite one over the last few years?
There's low hanging fruit, but I'm going to take it.
Go for
I
it.
recently just saw Blade Runner 2049
Oh, that's what I was gonna
for
say.
the first time, and genuinely, it just does it the right way. Because
Oh, totally.
I'll admit, right here, right now, live on the podcast,
Don't say
I
it.
have not seen Blade Runner, the original. I would like to.
not good.
I'm interested. However, a legacy sequel should accomplish, I think, two things. It should satisfy fans of the original and comfortably introduce a new audience.
Fair, great,
and-
great. Yeah, way of saying that.
Blade Runner 2049 did that perfectly. Not only did it
point.
make me love the movie, it made me want to watch Blade Runner and familiarize myself with that universe and understand some of the references that they made. However, none of the references crossed any line where I felt excluded or like I wasn't part of the club and therefore I can't enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
It was really awesome. Denis very clearly cares about the source material, and he also cares about all of the kind of fan mythology around the source material. There are many different cuts of the original Blade Runner. All of them kind of have different implications for what happens after the movie, and he intentionally didn't confirm or deny any of those fan mythologies because he didn't want to encroach on what the fans had built around the film. So he kind of had some allusions. He made some nods towards some certain things, but he let the universe still exist as a mental entity for the fans. And he just kind of put another thing in down the line. And I think there's really, you're going to be hard pressed, I think, to find an example of a legacy sequel that did it better than 2049. Probably some that did it as well, but I think that 2049 is about as good as you can do it with a legacy sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've
Definitely.
got answer number 2. If there is
Right on.
one that would contest, and that when this one was announced, I had the biggest eye roll ever. I was like, all right, we're doing it again. Another little like kind of reboot, sequel, remake, garbage. They're just trying to cash in on something, and that is the case sometimes. But when it's Top Gun Maverick, that's not the case.
yeah.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
was one of
dude.
our first movies back in the theaters, if I'm recalling. I think that's right.
I think it was summer 2022, early summer. Like,
Yeah, it was. I think one of the first ones that felt like a true blockbuster.
It was an event.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
People were seeing it over and over.
People were
and
talking
over
about
again.
it.
There are people who I'm sure weren't huge fans of Top Gun. I'm not a
Yeah.
huge fan of Top Gun.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
got some
it's like,
respect
okay,
for it.
I like
I've
it.
seen it before. But man, if I had to choose one to watch now, it would be Maverick every single time.
Oh yeah, no.
Totally.
There's no
Totally.
reason to watch the first one.
I was just talking to my friend today. He complimented me on my glasses. I have these aviators. And I was like, dude, I saw Top Gun Maverick and I bought these that day. Like it became my personality for
Yeah.
about 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, immediately leaving the movie theater, I was speeding. I was blasting the Kenny Loggins song,
Danger
Yeah.
Zone.
and just already deciding what my strict diet was going to be, so I could look like them on the beach and start growing out a mustache. Right? Miles Teller was such an amazing new addition to the story, who had
Yeah.
such a strong connection to the last movie, right? Being Goose's son. And man, like that relationship is super interesting. They did the characters right. They did the high octane, production right.
Action, yeah. Oh man, all of
It
it.
seemed like one of the main reasons they remade it is because of how much more they can do with film technology now.
Totally.
And that's a perfect reason to remake something, right? You look at Blade Runner, the original, versus Denis, 2049. Yes?
You got it.
Thank you. I still haven't seen that one, and it's on my short watch list.
It's
but
so sick.
So
you see, like, that is a huge technological jump, right, in the
Big
production. Say Top Gun somehow feels equally as big of a jump, even though it's not huge on CGI, and I mean that's one of the big reasons. So, anyway, loved it.
Yeah,
list it.
That's
Great
perfect
answer. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, dude.
Because
Miles
I
Teller.
want to watch it again now.
yeah,
Miles
honestly.
Teller, that was another Brad Pitt Fight Club moment where he kind of showed up
Absolutely.
and it's like, all right, well, if you want to be an attractive man, there's the
That's
standard
the
now.
standard.
Grow a mustache and
And
get
dating
ripped.
profiles after that. Every girl's dating profile talked about like, I want a man with a mustache
Yeah.
that looks like Miles Teller.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, but you're going to be grossly disappointed by what I have to
Someone
offer.
who can sing Great Balls of Fire. Or
that
whatever.
that editor hooked up Miles Teller so well. I just remember rewatching it because there's this half shot because most of the people are just in the shot as they're playing the games, but there's that half-second shot of him like flexing,
Of him doing the little, flex
dance, and
Yeah.
his abs and pecs just glisten
He
perfectly.
looks
And I'm
Yeah.
like,
insane.
the editor found that
He
shot.
looks like Michelangelo's canon
Oh,
of,
yeah.
of
Oh, yeah.
what a perfect
male
human should look
physique.
like.
Yeah, he got hooked
Oh,
up so
man.
well with that. Well, that one shot is really what did it, and it's only for like a half second, but it's just like,
Oh,
man,
but it
'cause
lasts an eternity.
It does. You see that, you're just like, oh no, like you said, bummer for us, man.
It's unfortunate that
Yeah.
I will never be considered attractive again.
With your point as well, though, Niall, with 2049, I agree that's my favorite Legacy sequel, at least. The crazy thing with that too is that Denny recently was interviewed by Letterboxd, and one of his 4 favorite movies he said was Blade Runner. So it's like, imagine if someone was like, hey, we want you to make a sequel to Lord of the Rings or something like your favorite movie. The pressure
That'd be
you would
tough.
feel would be
Yeah.
insane, but also you'd want to do it well. You would want it
Yeah.
to live up to the source
He
material.
said in an interview that he would never do something like that ever again.
Yeah,
just because
exactly, because of
he
that.
he would have like cold sweat nightmare dreams where he just like, I screwed everything up. He says he still wakes up like distraught in the middle of the night panicking about 2049.
It's like,
Wow.
why?
And it's
yeah.
like there's a ton of pressure there. So
Bro,
And he
imagine
pulled it off. He
Going
did it.
from your favorite movie to your favorite book, basically.
Yeah.
seriously.
insanity.
He's living the dream. He
Yeah, that's
truly
exactly
is living
it.
the dream.
That's
I
exactly
kind of
what he
hope
did.
that his next movie is like really small scale, like Prisoners again.
I
I
doubt
feel like
it.
that would-
I think
it
it'd be
won't
cool to see
be,
another
but
one
it
from
would be
him.
cool just
Yeah.
because like that's kind of like he's just done this big scale stuff. I would like another like really just kind of intimately
Like ground
located
level, yeah.
story,
Yeah,
you know.
something that you wouldn't hear about until award season or something
Yeah,
like that.
kind of. Like it won't happen, but that
Right.
would be sweet.
Never
The-
again. It's a Wes Anderson now, right? Like I
Yep.
think his name is stapled into great directors.
Yeah,
been
and
woven
the
into the
thing he's been
tapestry
given a
of
big budget
time.
before, so they know he can handle it. I would love to see him. I think this will happen. Do a different movie in between Part 2 and Messiah. I think that seems likely, and it would be cool if it was something totally different, like not a sci-fi thing. But my answer, aside from those two, which are both great answers, one of the best ones I've seen is Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh,
Dude.
good.
Similar-
answer. I didn't
So
even have that on
sick.
any of my lists.
Similar
That's
to
a
Niall, I've never
perfect
seen
answer.
any of the other Mad Max movies, so I have
They're
no
sick.
idea how they fit in, if they're supposed to at all. But that movie, the only amount of breathing time you get in the whole thing is the very beginning, where it's Tom Hardy kind of looking out over that desert landscape, and then high octane action for the rest of the movie. It's just pedal to the metal, but it does it really, really effectively. And you don't ever get tired of it just because of how unique and well made it is. And so that one, I just remember watching that for the first time and be like, what the heck? Why is this like so good? I was really like shocked because I had heard people, liked it and were looking forward to it. But it is such a cool
And
movie.
like just another one of those things that show it pays off to figure out a way to do things practically.
Totally.
Oh,
The
yeah.
people
Oh, totally.
swinging from car to car. George Miller was like, I don't think
So-
that we can do that. And then his like designers were like, no, I think we can kind of figure out a way. And they did it. And it's just, can you imagine that sequence in computer generated? Like it wouldn't
It would
feel the
lose
same,
something.
but that
Yeah,
whole
for
movie
sure.
feels so high stakes because they're actually doing the stuff. And
Well, and the
oh,
guitar
it's amazing.
spitting flame for like
the
whole
guitar
time.
spitting
Cool.
flames, and just like the war drums and the war guitar,
Yeah.
like
So
when
sick.
they start to approach, and you just hear in the distance like, and you're like, oh
And it's
no,
like the music is built. It's in world, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I love that
It's
they're just like
diegetic.
we don't care. Yeah, exactly. Diegetic. That's the word. It's so cool that that's just part of it. They're like, oh yeah, this sick ass guitar and drums. It's just part of the movie.
Yeah.
They're experiencing it just like you. I thought that was
It's
such a
so cool.
such a cool choice.
good answer.
Yeah,
Good
Mad
answer.
Max is awesome. So one
Max.
thing as well, 2015 I think was really the year because there were 3 really successful legacy sequels. Force Awakens, obviously, like we talked about. Mad Max Fury Road, which was very successful too.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Jurassic World, also came out in 2015. And that
Wow.
also made $1 billion. And so I think
Yeah.
it was the combination of those all coming out at the same time or around the same time. People were like, oh, hey, all 3 of these just worked this year, so let's keep it going. And
All the studios started looking in their attic. They're like, "Oh crap, what is up here?"
what do we got? What dusty
Can we do
garbage?
anything
still
with
have the
ET?
rights
Can we
to-
do it?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
E.T. legacy sequel would be so rough.
Well, hey, we got 2 Indiana Jones
I want a
legacy
Sixth
sequels.
Sense legacy
True.
sequel. Bring Haley Joel Osment back.
Oof.
It's like I still
I
see
still-
dead people.
I still, yeah.
Well, guys, exactly on that note, it doesn't always end well, right? And I think there are some really, really kind of stinkers.
Oh, yes.
Like Lucas was saying at the top of the episode, that honestly kind of ruin the experience of going back and watching the movies, right? Knowing, oh, well, in 50 years they end up doing this as well. And it just kind of takes away from that, the joy
The
of
magic,
being able to
yeah.
watch these movies. So do you have any examples of those specifically? Any legacy sequels that ruin the originals for you? And again, maybe not entirely. Is that grain of like there are plenty of sequels that I just kind of forget about when I watch the originals because I don't like them. But I'm just
Of
wondering
course.
if you guys have any that come.
Okay,
to
yeah,
your mind.
I've got one immediately. This one sold me so well with the trailer. I watched this trailer and I was like, you know what? I'm actually interested in watching this movie because it seems very cool. And that movie was Matrix Resurrections. Came out the same. I stole yours just like you stole
Dang
mine.
it.
Perfectly
Matrix
balanced.
Resurrections, which is the 4th Matrix movie. Now, I have only seen the first Matrix movie. I have not seen the second or third because I've heard they're stinky. But I watched the 4th one's trailer, and I was like, you know what? This actually looks really cool. And so I went to see it with my dad, who also had only ever seen the first one. And, man, it is not good at all. They're just trying so hard to be meta and to try and, like, say things about the world and about the effect that the Matrix has had on the world as well, and it's just not good. Like, it's just really poorly executed. The plot is not interesting. Here's a big thing, kind of going along with Jared's initial question, is that when these sequels like take away from the original work or just like revert these characters so that their character arcs and their progression has been undone, it's so frustrating. Obviously, Force Awakens, I think, is the most egregious example of that, of everything that happens and that they succeed with in episode 6 is completely undone by the time we get to 7. I think Matrix Resurrections is a similar thing where it's like, oh yeah, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, they just don't remember anything about the Matrix and they have to remember it. And it's like, well, why tell that story when we can just go back and watch the first one? We already have that. Give us something new. Give us something interesting. And I think that's the thing with these ones that we talked about with Maverick, Fury Road, and like 2049 is they really do expand on the original and add more to it while, still maintaining that some of the characters from the originals or just having them still in the front, kind of the center of attention with these sequels. And I just think it was not an effectively done legacy sequel at all. That's definitely the one I was most disappointed by, but it's also an IP I don't really care about that much, and so
Sure.
I wasn't that upset about it, but I was like, they got me with the trailer. They really got me because I thought that trailer was sick, and man, was the movie not good.
Yeah.
Fair. Plus, I had Neil Patrick Harris, and nothing with Neil Patrick Harris is ever bad.
I do like I do like Neil Patrick Harris, but it was definitely a bummer that that was
My answer is it's interesting because the original is one of my favorite movies. I maybe not top 10, but if I'm talking top 10 comedies, probably pretty high up there. And then the sequel, the Legacy sequel, is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And that is Zoolander 2.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Zoolander is such a good movie.
I love
perfectly
Zoolander.
self-contained.
Perfect.
Everything in there like kind of relates back. If it doesn't relate back, it's because it was there for a joke.
Yeah.
Kind of back from the golden age of comedies, and this is one of the best ones. Some of the dumbest and at the same time most clever jokes, and it's just one of those ones where there are enough clever jokes to balance the jokes where you're only laughing because what is even going on? Why is this happening? You know, him pulling his underwear off.
Yeah,
like,
dude,
through
Zoolander I
his
think
pants.
really benefits from a rewatch as well. I've watched that subsequently and loved it more every time I've watched it.
Zoolander gets better every time you
So
watch
good.
it. Zoolander 2,
Why male models?
my guide to enjoying Zoolander 2 is to get on your phone, open the YouTube app, and look up Zoolander 2 trailer, because you will see the only funny or good parts of the movie
Yeah, that's true.
in that trailer. The rest of it feels like two guys who desperately needed a paycheck working for a studio who told them, we will give you so much money if you just show up. It feels like they have zero passion for the script, which
Honestly-
clearly they do. Like, why would they care about the script?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And-
feels like a like the Academy Awards red carpet or something along those lines, with just how many celebrities cameo in it. Every
Yeah.
scene has
Totally.
multiple.
And that's all that it tries to do.
It's terrible.
And it, I don't know. I have so many frustrated feelings about
Yeah,
that movie.
totally.
But
Rightfully so.
I think that the first one was made at a time where the comedians in the movie are also working with the writers, who are also comedians that they respect a lot, to come up with the funniest version of the movie. Now, you had people writing that movie who, and of course, I haven't checked who the writers are. Maybe they're funny. I don't know. But what it feels like is you are giving two of the funniest people in the game a script of jokes that are objectively not funny. And then the writers saying, this is funnier than whatever you can come up with, so don't ad-lib. Here you go. And then they just have to make this terrible script into a terrible movie. And it's a real shame. So that is my answer.
Yeah.
I say that. I don't know if it really ruins the first one, because the first one is still really awesome.
Totally.
However, watching the second one makes you not want to watch the first one.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah, so I guess in your explanation or your definition of introducing a new audience, there's no way a new audience would go back.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
no
I
way a
think
new
that's right
audience
there.
would go
Yeah.
back. And it didn't satisfy the desires of the old audience. It
Yeah.
missed on both accounts. So
Totally.
there's no reason to ever watch that movie, ever.
Honestly, you said that movie, and that was when I remembered that it existed again. When I've thought about Zoolander, I've watched Zoolander since that movie's come out, and I've seen the sequel, and I've fully forgotten about it.
Yep.
And that is just a true point of joy in my heart.
Yeah.
It's amazing what your brain can do in response to trauma, I think, is what I'm trying to get at.
100%.
Yeah, really. I was just double checking here. The Zoolander 2 came out the same night as the first Deadpool movie, which is kind of a crazy time to put that out.
Yeah.
I think they were just probably trying to attract the PG-13 audience or whatever it was. I can't imagine it was successful at all because of that. But I went to see Zoolander 2 in theaters with my dad the night that Deadpool came out / the night this movie came out, because I was still 16, maybe
Ooh.
17. So I was young. And, you know, my dad was like, no way you were going to be watching Deadpool. But we're like, let's go see this movie. And to be honest, when I saw it, I thought it was fun. I liked it. I didn't remember it. But I'm not even totally sure I had seen the first one yet. I just kind of went because it was like, yeah, let's go watch this movie. Because I had free ticket. Like, I was working at the theater at that point. We were like, we can go see a movie. I'm pretty sure I had, but it had probably been a while. And so I was just like, yeah, that was fun, whatever. I'm sure if I were to go back and watch it, I would loathe it. But I just got to be honest, the first and only time I watched the movie, I thought it was fun, but I was also 16, and who cares about what I thought when I was 16.
Yeah.
So.
I think I was
I
also
also-
around that age, and I red boxed it. And I watched it alone.
Nice.
It was miserable. It was kind of that completionist mindset that I still have, where I'm like, I started this movie, I rented this movie,
I will
I'm gonna finish this movie. Not happy about it.
I have an honorable mention that I just thought of that
Yep, go
was
for it.
not in my lists, but
It
it's
won't be
kind
mine.
of a legacy sequel.
Yeah.
The Flash. The
Oh,
Flash
interesting, yeah.
makes
I
you
guess so.
hate Michael Keaton Batman.
Well, the weird
So
thing is,
much.
Interesting.
he had a little joke this year at the Oscars. Michael Keaton with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
my dad was like, the crazy thing is, he played Batman this year, and no one remembers or cares.
Yep.
It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, Michael Keaton from
He
the
probably
80s.
doesn't remember.
Oh yeah, exactly. But it was
That's
like
fair.
6 months ago, or maybe almost a year ago, I guess at this point. But everyone just immediately forgot about the fact that he came back.
Oh, dude, it was such garbage. And the way they did his character, you're just like, dude, get out of here. Like, stop. This whole movie should stop.
I
I
don't
want
know.
to
Well,
pause it and leave.
I am on that Michael Keaton and Legacy sequel chain. I am optimistic about Beetlejuice.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic.
Me too. I'm
'Cause I do
optimistic
really
for a few
like
reasons.
Beetlejuice.
I think it's very bold of them to put an O.J. Simpson reference in the trailer.
The juice is loose.
The juice is loose.
Dude, that
'cause
made
was
me
like
laugh.
the
I thought
whole
that was
thing.
really funny.
That's great. I'm like,
Just,
all right,
hey,
let's push
Michael,
boundaries
this-
with it and let's do
This
it.
ain't your mom's Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Come on.
I am actually really excited. I really like Beetlejuice 1, and he has said, I've worked on so many big budget movies over the year. There's always huge green screens everywhere. I told Tim Burton, if we're going to do this, we're not doing it like that. We're doing practical, just like we did with the first one. And, you
Yeah.
know, based on the trailer, that absolutely seems to be the case. There didn't seem to be a single, hint of CG that they showcased so far. So I'm really hoping it, stays in line with the kind of practical effect side of things that they did with the original. He said that, he was kind of surprised in the way that Tim Burton pitched it to him, but he was totally on board. And so I'm interested to see what they do with it.
Yeah, seems a little refreshing if
If
the
it's
person
new,
who played Beetlejuice was already surprised about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he
Plus,
says
Michael
he's seen a
Keaton
cut
has
of it
been-
and he liked it too. So
Oh, cool. I was just gonna say Michael Keaton has been one of our 3 personal favorite actors since his performance in The Founder, and so
Yep.
Yeah, that's
we're
dude,
very
The Founder's
excited.
So good.
We're excited to see him on
I
the
just
big
ordered
screen
my
again.
The Founder Funko Pop.
nice. That's epic, dude. Well, actually, I
That
saw
is epic.
I saw Michael Keaton when I went to Kimmel a couple weeks ago, which was really cool.
That's right.
Yeah.
This
He
is
looked
not part of the joke. This
No,
is
that's
real.
a
No,
real
this
thing.
is real.
But
You
I
know
didn't-
what else
What
is
did
a
he
real
say to
thing?
Son. He didn't say anything to me or look at me.
What did you say
I
to
was
him?
just I said, "Ebop,
Here's the
bazinga."
problem.
Oh, that's
That
probably
doesn't
what
give,
happened.
that doesn't
yeah.
give him a lot to go on.
I was 100 feet away though, so
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah.
you heard me.
So you shouted "Ebop Bazinga" at him from 100 feet away.
Yeah, it was out. He was
Yeah,
really
I wouldn't
far away.
respond. I wouldn't respond.
He wasn't facing me either. It might not have been him. I was pretty sure it was him.
Well,
Oh, but what is your answer? Sorry.
yeah, I had a segue there. I was trying to spin that, but I couldn't
Sorry.
come up with something.
Do it now.
You know what else is real? Hocus Pocus 2. Two Hocus, Two Pocus.
Oh,
I
nice.
didn't,
Now this is a more of a
Definitely legacy
a
sequel.
one for me. That last answer was one for you guys. This one's one for me. And Hocus Pocus is a movie I watched growing up, and I was a fan of it. Is it a great movie?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Is
I
it
haven't
very,
seen
very fun? It is very, very fun.
Nice.
It is like that. It's exactly the kind of movie that it needs to be. It's quirky. It's very like holiday-y. And it just seems like the actors, specifically the three witches, are having the time of their lives playing those roles.
Nice.
They are eating it, milking every line for all it's worth. And they're the reason I like that movie. It's not the kids. It's not everything. It's not the plot, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's three witches. They're back for one night, and they've got to eat some children, basically. And that's their goal, is to suck the souls out of children. And these kids are trying to stop them. Basic plot, basic movie. But my little story with it is when I moved to college, our house had a TV and one DVD, and that is the DVD of Hocus Pocus for some reason. And so my roommate Mike and I, shout out to Mike, our Patreon subscriber.
My boy!
Mike Polonczyk.
Learn more at the end of this episode about how you can be a Patreon subscriber. He and I just decided to do some homework and watch Hocus Pocus. And that one decision turned into a tradition that we continued for the next 5 years. We did it every year. We'd just get together. We'd watch Hocus Pocus, the boys.
Yes.
Except for, I think it was 2 years ago, Hocus Pocus came out. Hocus Pocus 2 did. And we decided, hey, let's watch the new one.
Let's shake it
Might
up,
as well.
baby.
That could be fun.
Variety is the spice
And we
of
watched
life,
it,
they
and it
say.
just was not the same. It just didn't hit, and it wasn't that good. And
Yeah, it's-
they really just tried to make those fun moments from the original. They just tried to remake it, but modern, and it just wasn't good. And then,
Yeah.
this October came around, and I didn't watch Hocus Pocus.
Oh, because of that. Oh, wow.
I don't have a taste for it
stomach
anymore.
it.
I didn't want to do it.
Couldn't hack it.
That's a bummer.
And so maybe next year, I don't know. Even thinking about it now, I'm not excited about it. But that's mine.
That's a good answer.
Hocus
Yeah, I
Pocus too.
haven't seen
That is
either
a
of
very
them.
good answer.
But
I recommend the original. However, I've also showed it to people for the first time, like in these last 5 years. And if they hadn't seen it as a child, they didn't like it as an adult.
Yeah.
Is typically
that's what I've
the
heard.
case.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
That makes sense.
But
I've never
again,
seen it.
it's very whimsical and very silly. And if you do not take it seriously, right?
Yeah.
You would. I don't imagine you would be taking Hocus
Just-
Pocus, Disney's Hocus Pocus, too
Yeah.
seriously. But it is a very enjoyable time.
Yeah, I have a lot of people who feel similar. And there are plenty of movies I like that I don't know if I were to show them to people that they would love that much that I loved it as a
Yeah.
kid, but I totally
Yeah.
get it. And
Yeah, so I won't ever force you two to watch a movie that I liked growing up that might not be good now.
yeah, I wouldn't either. I can actually only think of one person who would do that.
Yeah.
And he'll remain
kind of-
nameless.
Must be.
Yeah,
a
we
real
won't
jerk.
say who it is.
One
I don't know.
last-
I don't know anyone that would do that. So
Yeah, I'm glad.
you'll
I'm
have to
glad
tell
you
me
don't
who
know
it
anyone.
is.
That's good, yeah. We'll tell you in the post credits.
Yeah. One last honorable mention I'm just going to shout out before we move into the final question.
Dishonorable mention.
The dishonorable mention, exactly, because it's like kind of like Jared mentioned, like seeing these, it's the same actors, right? And it's actually them. It's not any sort of CGI or anything. It's them, and they're just doing a worse version of the thing you love. It
Yeah.
just sucks so much because all it does is remind you of how much you love the original, and so watching them just butcher it just as they're older just breaks my heart. And I think one of the times I experienced this the most viscerally was in season 5 of Arrested Development. I think that it's
yeah.
just like it's just not
That is
very
a good answer.
And it's like
Very good
you're
answer.
watching it,
Sad
and it's
answer.
all the it's they
It's
got
everyone.
him. They got Jason Bateman. They got Michael Cera. They got them all to come back, and it just doesn't do it. I think season 4 is hit or miss. There's a lot about season 4 I like, but then season 5 I think really drops the ball with it's just not very funny. It's just not at the same level, especially if season 1, 2, and 3 just how much I love those seasons, and then just watching season 5, man. I remember watching it initially and enjoying it well enough, but then rewatching it, I was like, oh, I almost couldn't even finish it. I did, but I was like, oh man, it's just not
That's
it.
a bummer.
But
That is a bummer.
yeah, I don't know. That's another example for me, at least. It was Arrested Development season 5.
Oh, well, we know we like to start with a high, enter a low, and then try to end on a high.
And on a
End
high.
on a whimsy, end on a fun, goofy, wacky, and that's
fun,
where
goofy, wacky
your
goodie.
boy Niall comes in. I want you guys to pitch to me a legacy sequel that has not been made yet that wouldn't be a waste of time to go see, whose existence would be warranted
Whose
and would be
existence-
fun to watch.
Would be good and nice.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
So you may.
I need to think about it.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay,
I know what everyone's thinking. What's Detective Pikachu up to
Yeah.
these days?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I can pitch you mine real quick.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready as well when you're done.
Oh, then you
Okay,
go.
cool.
You
Okay.
go.
Mine is an example that has actually been kind of there's rumblings of a rumor of this possibly coming out. And I think it could be really effective if they brought the same filmmaking duo back together, and that is The Social Network. Because I love The Social Network.
Oh, interesting.
And
Me too, yeah.
it was directed by David Fincher, written by Aaron Sorkin.
Oh.
They have talked about, like, hey, Facebook and Meta now have changed a ton over the last 10 years, because that came out in
And
2013.
Zuckerberg's been in courtrooms.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
stuff.
Zuckerberg
Aaron
has-
Sorkin writing a courtroom drama.
Yeah,
Come on.
man, I wonder if he's ever done that before.
I don't think so.
He has. It's good.
I know,
He has. It's called Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
dude.
Courtroom
that
drama.
courtroom scene is so good.
No, but so fulfilling the 10-year plus, at this point it's been 11 years since it's come out. I think that would be actually really interesting to see a real life, because there's not biopic sequels, and for good reason. But the fact that The Social Network came out when it did, when Facebook was still it was huge at the time, but it's become bigger. It's acquired, WhatsApp and Instagram since then, which has kept it incredibly relevant. Meta, the freaking Oculus, all that stuff is still a part of Facebook. And so I think kind of maybe even like in a few more years, just kind of talking about its further effect and just really making it more about Zuckerberg would be continually interesting. And just kind of, the Social Network is so great because it kind of shows the struggles with like him being sued by the Winklevoss twins and like him just kind of stabbing all his friends in the back to be successful. And so kind of the continuation of that, what's happened since then in real time, would be really cool to see. And I would love to have that.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh,
That's actually a really good answer.
yeah, it's a great answer.
Thanks.
Sorry, my phone just got interference. You guys didn't hear it, but the listeners definitely did. So that's why I said, "Oh goodness." Jared, you good, or do you want me to go? I can go.
You go.
right.
I'm having a hard time with this one.
So I might be cheating a little bit because this is a movie that technically has been stuck in production hell for like 10-ish years. But because no information has been released about the plot, I am going to pitch now my version of Wayne's World 3. I think that it is a very easy thing to make a legacy sequel of.
Oh, totally.
Mike Myers and Dana Carvey are still around and they're still funny. What my approach would be is it's them. They never changed their ways or the kind of people that they are. They're now just old and washed up. My idea for the initial joke is that they stopped doing Wayne's World, the TV show, on cable access 3 years ago. So they kept doing it
For a
long into
long
their
time.
adulthood.
Yeah, wow.
And then quit 3 years ago, and they really miss it, and they're bummed about it. But then they get discovered on an online social media platform,
Oh.
maybe TikTok, maybe something else, but a
Yeah.
video of their old show blows up on there, and they get discovered and basically brought back to make like a new Wayne's World series, kind of emulating the first one. They're given all these resources and everything, but instead of it being like, corporate greed, corporate sellout, their marketing manager keeps suggesting like, oh, well, listen to the newest Taylor Swift album or whatever. And they're like, Taylor Swift blows. Like, we want to talk about, and they're talking about like, classic rock bands and also modern rock bands that emulate that, like Greta Van Fleet. You can get big, like modern band cameos. The Foo Fighters would very willingly show up in a movie like this. And you could kind of explore the rock and roll scene now and see how these, washed up rockers from ages past are adjusting to fame and popularity in a modern world where they have to do what audiences expect of them rather than what's genuine.
That's great. Honestly, I could totally see that movie existing. And I didn't know that they were working on a Wayne's World 3.
It's one of those things where like every time Mike Myers has been on Jimmy Fallon, which is not often, but that question comes up and it's kind of like, yeah, we expect an announcement soon, and then no announcement happens, But it's technically been worked on for a long time, but no info is out, so all of that is Niall Thorley brain baby.
Nice. Great pitch. Great pitch.
Thanks.
I love a Niall Thorley brain baby.
Me too.
Me too.
So guys, I know what you're thinking. What's Detective Pikachu?
That is what I'm
joking.
thinking.
Guys, I can't come up with anything. I should have been thinking about this way before, but I was
Here's
working
one.
and then we
Here's one
recorded.
I'm excited for that we can talk about.
Yeah, help me out here.
Which I don't know if you've seen 28 Days Later, but it's
I've heard rumor of.
It's a great. I really enjoyed it. At least I think it's got a pretty decent cult following. Zombie movie from I think the 90s, maybe early 2000s. But it's got Cillian Murphy in it, directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland. Just absolute heaters. Just dream team. There was a sequel made, I think, called
movie.
28 Weeks Later.
Weeks.
Yeah, which I don't think a lot of people liked. It was not made by them. Cillian Murphy doesn't return. None of that. 28 Years Later is now in active development, and it has Danny Boyle returning to direct, Alex Garland returning to write, and Cillian Murphy returning to star. So that could be awesome.
Here's my pitch.
I'm really excited for
My
that.
pitch is 28 light years later.
Oh.
This is a sci-fi where they have gone to space and they settle on another planet that has had a zombie apocalypse already. But with their zombie killing prowess that they obtained on Earth, they take out all of the zombies on this new planet and colonize there.
Nice.
Bam! 28 light years later, best movie you've ever seen in your life.
Here's
Written
another.
and directed by J.J. Abrams.
Of course. This one is here's a list of other ones that are upcoming. Just kind of interesting. Some of these are interesting. Some of these are like, why? Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Whoa.
I watched the first one and thought it was really funny, and then discovered there are two more, which I did not watch, and now they're making a fourth one.
Certainly not funny or good.
Yeah, the fourth one I think comes out this year. Another one is Constantine is getting a sequel, or it's rumored to be in development. Another Keanu Reeves one.
The Keanu one?
Yeah,
Nice.
which is very, very interesting to me. District 10, sequel to District 9, which I think is a great
Ooh,
movie.
I'm actually down for that. I love District 9.
Me too. Dodgeball 2 is apparently also in development.
Bull.
These are kind of various stages of development.
No way that'll be good.
Yeah. Some of
Unless
these,
Vince Vaughn and Ben Stiller are back, baby.
I think that's the plan, yeah, is that they'll both return. Some of these I'm like...
When they get
there's-
the script, they'll drop out.
Exactly. Can you imagine? Some of these are like not even legacy sequels. It just has like Eternals 2. Like that's not a legacy sequel at all. That
Happening.
movie.
Yeah.
Or happening probably at all. Some of these, are
Do you
just
think
straight
What's
up-
Her Face will return to direct?
No.
Direct the sequel.
I don't
of her,
think that
the
sequel
biggest
comes.
blot
I think
on her career.
I think if anything, biggest blot, but she probably got paid like $10 to $20 million. So
Well, yeah.
I'm sure she's not complaining. If anything, those characters will be integrated into other Marvel projects. I do not see that
Yeah.
getting a sequel.
Which I'm down for.
Yeah,
I
it
like
might as
Jenna
well.
Chan
It's
a lot.
way better. Gladiator 2 is coming out this year. That's a legacy sequel. I am very much excited for that
Yeah.
one. 20 plus years in the making. Goody. You're
20
going to love
plus
this,
years
Jared.
later,
Hocus
I don't know if
Pocus
it's
3
being
is
made.
also in development. So
Wow.
that'll
You know,
be
they can keep doing it. I just am not
not
gonna watch
interested.
it. And that's fine with me.
You're going to
You
leave
know,
that trilogy
I've
unwatched.
turned over a new. Yeah, that is true. There's something appealing about a trilogy.
Yeah, there is.
Speaking of trilogy,
Oh, trilogy's nuts.
he's got a heater in
this might need to be a couple more years, just to ensure that legacy status.
Cool.
Venom.
Picture we're in a
Third
world
movie hasn't
of
come out.
political turmoil. Okay,
I can imagine that very well.
just do your best to try to imagine that.
Man.
There's all sorts of pressure on the White House, on whoever the president is going to be.
Johnny Gooden.
Specifically, possibly to protect against insurrections that may happen or any sort of riots. Things like that. In this world, this is a dark, gritty
Whoa.
movie. Very,
Sounds like
that new Civil War.
I was going to say, yeah. Similar.
Vibe.
Amped about, by the
Similar
way.
energy.
But the president needs protection. And their normal staff's not going to cut it. Okay? So they bring in Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Oh, nice.
And it's Paul Blart Mall Cop 3 White House Down.
Well, it's been a long time since the second one. That would totally be a legacy sequel.
that was 2015.
That was 2015? No way,
Yeah.
dude.
The first one's what, 2009?
9?
That's what
Jeez.
I'm gonna guess.
Whoa.
Maybe there's got to be a better name for it.
No, that's a great name. That's so
That is a
funny.
great name.
Paul Blart White House Down. Paul
So
Blart
that's
Or like
Resurgence.
Paul Blart Secret Service.
Paul Blart Secret
nice,
Service is
yeah.
good. All
White House Down is better.
and then I think honestly you could just kind of rip that end of the end of like the first movie, but instead of being at an airport, he gets on the plane. It's Air Force One, and the final battle takes place in the sky.
Nice.
We get a Mission Impossible style
Yeah.
like
Skydive.
jumping skydiving scene. Oh man. You know, I don't have many ideas for this movie, but I've got more than they had for Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
Yeah,
Already.
that's enough. It's enough to make a movie.
I
Yeah.
just had another idea just when we were talking about years.
Let's
I
hear it.
don't have an idea for the plot, and I feel like the plot wouldn't be good, but I would just like to see all these people in the same place together again. If they gave us a Hot Rod sequel,
Oh, dude.
just
I
get
would watch
that
it, of
cast
course.
together
Yeah, it'd
again.
be
Oh,
awesome.
100%. Maybe the plot is something like they're gonna do some global stunt, fundraiser for something, and they've asked him to participate, and so he
Dude, I
has
love
to
it.
join it. And then you get other dumb comedians to play other stuntmen from around the world, whatnot, or very serious.
That's a classic
actors.
sequel.
Yeah, I know,
really.
but it's like
That feels
it's like
very much, yeah.
but it works in Anchorman 2 when they do the news anchors fight and they
Yeah.
just populate it like crazy with other actors and comedians.
Yeah.
But it like feels like kind of part of the joke, the fact that they've just packed it full of these people.
Oh, definitely.
Hot Rod is a movie that could definitely get away with something like that,
Totally.
So I don't know. Or you get like very serious actors to play the other stuntmen, and just that balance of like they are just these total idiots, and the other stuntmen are like very legitimate, people. Could
Yeah.
be fun. Could be
Yeah,
cool.
that
Could be
fun.
nice.
Kind of the. Could
Yeah,
be,
I think
could be
the hardest
cool
thing for me was just finding a sequel or like a movie that I'm okay if
that you don't want to ruin.
if it
Yeah.
does ruin it, that's
That's
fine.
so be it, yeah.
Yeah,
So be
Very
it.
fair.
that's fair.
And there's
Paul
also
Blart's
there's
a good answer.
there's some of those movies that are kind of immune to being ruined, like Paul Blart.
Yeah. So
It's
here's
just
a
so gold.
Here's an interesting fact about legacy sequels. I had mentioned that, definitely it started in 2015, this resurgence. But the first one that I'm seeing really that like far preceded any of these was a movie.
Can I have a guess?
There's no shot in a million years you guess it. So I'm just going to say it.
Right.
The movie is The Color of Money, which is a Martin
I was
Scorsese.
going to guess that.
Well, there's no way for us to know now because I cut you off. So we can just take your word for it.
I was going to guess it.
The Color of Money was directed by Martin Scorsese in 1986, and it was a sequel to the movie The Hustler, which came out in 1961. So 25 years later, Paul Newman, Tom Cruise get together, make The Color of Money. Haven't seen either, but heard they're both great. I think The Hustler might have been nominated or won Best Picture, but regardless, I think that's the first one that was like really like, this is a sequel to a movie that came out a while ago.
Well, I'll save you all the
So
time. You
shout
don't
out
have
Martin
to see it
Scorsese.
because it's called The Color of Money. It's green. Now you don't have to waste your time with the movie. Sick joke. Best joke of the podcast.
Thank you so
Great joke
much
to
for
end
listening.
on.
Perfect
Very
joke to
good
end
joke
on.
to end on.
We're not even going to shout out our patrons this week just because of how
No, I
good
promise.
No, we
I
that
don't
promise.
joke
shout out
I
our
promise.
patrons.
How
anyway.
good that joke was.
We don't shout out our patrons, Lucas.
Yeah,
We
sorry.
shout out my mom.
We're not going to shout out your mom.
We must.
I'm
We
joking.
must because she
I'm
needs it.
She does need it.
So shout out to Kel this week from Rowan Oberg, Nick Bell, Michael Polonsic, who was mentioned in this episode.
Wow.
Nick Bell, I guess, who was also mentioned in the cold open of this episode. Easy Lob, Britton Inkley, Riley Allen, Ian, James Martin, and Hannah Steed. Shout out to Kel from all of those people.
Shout
If
out
you
to
want to shout
Kel.
out Kel, support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/mancavemovie-night. $3 a month. You can shout out my mom at the end of every episode. You can also watch the bonus episodes, like the one that we're literally about to record.
Of which we will now
we
have
we get goofy,
32,
we get gaffy, we
so
get yippy, we get yappy.
That's lots
So
of hours of content.
if you want
can
to see
hop
all
in
of
on.
those,
Also,
then do that.
something I had mentioned to
Also
me by
what?
someone, if you don't want your name read every episode, you can let us know. Because I was talking to someone, they're like,
Sure.
I kind of would, but I don't really want my name read every episode. I'm like, really? That's your reason?
Didn't think about that.
And I was
That's
like, you know what?
fair.
That actually is really fair. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, let us know,
So
and
if
then-
you do want to support the podcast,
if you feel uncomfortable
but
about
you don't
that,
want to
then,
hear your voice read or your name read, then that is totally
Yeah.
fine. We'll
You
just
can
say
also-
anonymous friend one or we
on
just won't even say anything at all.
Patreon, you make your username. So you can just make some dumb username. You can make a reference to the podcast as your username. It doesn't have to be identified to you. So
True,
Patreon
true,
gives you
very
options for that.
Yeah,
but
you can
also,
make
yeah,
Niall
we
say
can-
something every episode.
yeah,
but
something
no potty
silly.
words.
There's a lot of words he loves to say.
There's a
but
lot of
not
words
on-
that are
not
back.
on the mic.
There are words that are back. I'm not going to say them. I don't like to say them. I don't say them
Good.
even at
I'm
all.
glad.
But
Oh,
other
you said
people do
last
because
week.
they're kind of back. Anyway,
Hmm.
that's all that I have to say.
They're back.
I'm glad you said that, Niall. I'm glad we talked about legacy sequels. I thought this was fun.
Yeah. Oh, you're glad that we talked about your topic that you chose?
Yeah, I'm glad with that you guys didn't
Great.
reject it immediately and say no, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that topic.
Like-
I didn't know that was an
Like most
option.
Like I did.
Well, when
Yeah.
you pitch, your first pitch was Star Wars books, and so we did have to shoot that down.
That's true.
which is why they were our sponsor. Well, because I didn't want to reveal they were a sponsor until the beginning of the
Right.
episode.
That makes sense.
DKBooks.com
Now I feel bad that we shot
/1959.
that down.
Lucas was going to get the 9th movies book.
Yeah.
If it was the full episode, they were going to throw that one in.
Yeah, they were.
But because they were just like a little plug at the beginning.
They just
the
canceled
other
it. They already shipped it, and now they demand that he ships it back. When
yeah,
it
I'm not even
They're
allowed
like,
to
do not open it as a plastic seal. We will know if you tamper with it.
I have it over here, just sitting in my corner. Gonna send it
Oh, it
back.
got there.
Yeah, it came already. I was gonna open it, but I guess not. I can't do it anymore. Anyway,
But you know what
In
you
the
can
episode-
do?
you can buy Bazinga. Is that what you're getting to? Is that your segue?
You can catch us on another Man Cave
Ah,
movie
of
night
course.
Monday.
Sorry.
Sorry.
before
Oh,
that.
Sorry.
Now you say it.
Now I can say bye Bazinga, but I don't really.
No,
There
you
you
say
go.
that. All right. Bye.
Say what? Oh, yeah. Listen. Wait. Next week, Man Cave movie
Done,
night.
done.
Monday.
Nope,
we'll
nope,
hear,
you
we'll
missed
talk to
it.
you next week.
See ya, everyone.
Bye Bazinga.